I've been covering Jonathan Majors' trial for a little bit on my channel, and every single time I've covered it, I have gotten a pretty negative response. I have been maintaining pretty much since the beginning that Jonathan Majors is an abuser. Everything that I have seen, the evidence coming out, shows that he is a very controlling person. And, well, just take a look for yourself. Jonathan Majors, found guilty of assault and harassment. The verdict was reached Monday by a 6-person jury after over 4 hours of deliberation spread across 3 days. The actor is set to be sentenced on February 6th. So he was found guilty on 2 of the 4 charges. And my last stream, I went through all of the comments that I was receiving on my coverage of Jonathan Majors. A lot of people were there was a lot of people who were just telling me that I got it wrong. But there was a lot of people who were being very abusive about it, and a lot of people who were being homophobic about it. And I bit my tongue for a lot of it and said, okay, well, the case is still ongoing, the jury's deliberating. Maybe these people have information that I don't have. And I was open to that. And I put up my response to that, and that one also got downvoted to hell and got angry responses and homophobia. And Jonathan Majors is guilty. The New York jury found Marvel actor Jonathan Majors guilty of reckless assault in the 3rd degree and guilty of harassment. The verdict was reached by a 6-person jury after roughly over 4 hours of deliberation spread across 3 days. Majors, wearing a gray suit and black dress shirt and tie, stood with his attorneys as the verdict was read, with family members and his girlfriend Megan Good behind him. Sentencing is set for February 6th. The charges, a misdemeanor and a violation, carry a sentence of up to 1 year in prison. I don't think he's going to get 1 year. I think they will probably bring that down. On 2 other charges, he was found not guilty of intentional assault in the 3rd degree and not guilty of aggravated assault in 2nd degree. In a statement after the verdict, the actor's attorney, Priya Chaudhry, said Majors looks forward to fully clearing his name, implying he may appeal. She continued, Mr. Majors is grateful to God, his family, his friends, and his fans for their love and support during these harrowing 8 months. And a lot of this, it looks like it's just... There's some information that I'm skipping over because I've got a different article for that. The arrest already had implications on what had been the biggest year in Majors' career, which included starring roles in Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, Creed 3, and Loki Season 2. In the wake of his arrest, both his publicity firm, The Lead Company, and managers at Management 360 dropped him, and the Disney-owned Searchlight Features removed Magazine Dreams from its release calendar. In a statement after the verdict, Ross Kramer, an attorney for Jabari, said they hope the guilty verdict inspires other victims of assault. We're gratified to see justice served by today's guilty verdicts, the statement said. Read, Ms. Jabari testified publicly and truthfully, even though reliving these traumatic events on the witness stand was obviously painful. We are grateful to the jurors and the judge for their attention and patience, and to the Manhattan District Attorney's Office for their hard work and support. During the trial, prosecutors approached this as a case of domestic violence, while the defense repeatedly called Jabari's credibility into question and positioned it as an ex's revenge. Majors appeared in person every day of the 2-week trial with Good and family members in attendance. He did not testify during the trial and showed little emotion except for tearing up during closing arguments from his attorney Chaudhry, as she said his fear of what happens when a black man in America calls 911 came true. And there was a lot of comments that I was getting from people who were accusing me of racism. And I was expecting some of that because he is a black man. I acknowledged in my video that he's a black man who is being accused by a white woman, and that historically has a lot of pretty bad racial connotations. But there was a lot of people who were accusing me of racism in the same breath that they were being homophobic toward me. And now he's guilty. You weren't in the courtroom. I wasn't in the courtroom. The jurors were in the courtroom. They saw all the evidence. You didn't. You weren't there. I wasn't there. But what I did see, the evidence that was out there, showed me an incredibly controlling, megalomaniacal, abusive person. And I saw people come in here and say, well, of course he's a great man. He's doing great things and he wants his woman to behave. Lots of people were just literally doing abuse apologia in my comments, and I took it on the chin. I was waiting for the verdict to be read. And the verdict's read, and he's fucking guilty, and every single one of you motherfuckers who came into my comments to be homophobic toward me, you can lick my fishy cloaca. Fuck you. Go drink some Panera lemonade. Holy fucking shit. Fuck you. He's guilty, like I said, from the fucking beginning. God damn. I don't care about the rest of this article. The reason I've been covering this for so long is, honestly, like, I don't care so much about celebrity gossip. That's not really my thing. I was invested in this because primarily I am an MCU fan. And I don't want a franchise that I have liked for over a decade to be helmed by a serial abuser. So, yes, I was invested in this. And since that's what we're talking about, Marvel drops Jonathan Majors after assault and harassment verdict. The actor starred as Kang the Conqueror in Ant-Man. I don't need to read that. We all know that. But he was poised to star in Avengers the Kang Dynasty. And I'm not going to read this whole article, but he's out. And there's some key things that I've noted here. Marvel has 2 courses it could take now. It could recast the part, although it's not clear how many actors would be attracted to a role from which one actor was so publicly fired. The other course is to redevelop its plans and refocus on a brand new villain. While Marvel sources are mum, there is indication that the studio has already been doing just that. In November, Marvel hired Loki creator Michael Waldron to work on a new draft of what was once called Kang Dynasty, but is now being referred to as Avengers 5, according to sources. So, what does this mean? These, again, like they said, Marvel sources are mum, so we don't know which way they're going. But the fact that they have been referring to it as Avengers 5 internally seems to suggest that they're trying to get away from the Kang thing. I think they should still keep Kang. I just think they should recast him. But I am aware how many actors would be attracted to a role from which one actor was so publicly fired. I've been seeing people trying to fan cast on Twitter already. A lot of people were saying John Boyega should play Kang. John Boyega has already said he's not interested in playing Kang on Twitter, but people are going to fan cast anyway. If they don't go with Kang, it kind of puts a wrench in like the one thing that the phases 4 and 5 actually seem to have for them. Like, they've been pretty directionless, and the existence of Kang has really been the only like through line that seems to have any actual story traction. And if they drop it here, I think it's going to just keep the rest of the multiverse saga as inconsistent as it has been for the rest of it. So I really think they should recast, but I am aware that it may be a thing where nobody wants to take the role. They don't want to be seen as the person who took Jonathan Majors' job. And if that's the case, they should probably go with Doctor Doom. We've got the Fantastic Four movie coming out in 2025. Doctor Doom has long been in the comics one of the biggest villains in Marvel, one of the most formidable. And if they're going to be doing 2 Avengers movies back to back, including Secret Wars. I know Doctor Doom was involved in Secret Wars. Of course, the actual story of Secret Wars from the comics is really irrelevant to what they mostly just be taking the name because it's a big thing where they get a whole bunch of superheroes in together. I'd be curious to see. I've seen a lot of fan castings for Doctor Doom. I know Adam Driver gets fan cast for like everything, but he seems like somebody a lot of people would like to see as Doctor Doom. I don't know. I still think the best choice would be to recast Kang, but I am aware that they might have trouble getting somebody who wants to take that role now. Anyway, while we're on this subject, it's notable that Jonathan Majors, Marvel kept him on up until the moment that the guilty verdict was read. They were waiting. They weren't going to fire him if he didn't get the guilty verdict. I know that for sure because they wouldn't have announced this right after the guilty verdict otherwise. They were waiting to see the results of the case. And I have, like I said, been conscious of the racism at play in our systems. And this is one of those, but not in the way that you might think. Jonathan Majors deserved to be fired. He should not be Kang. He's an abuser. He's been convicted of assault and harassment. He's probably going to spend a couple months in jail, or at the very least some house arrest or something. But I can't help but think about Ezra Miller, who, as we all know, is the piece of shit that has been punching and grooming people all across the country for years. Like, their violent stuff, like here, Rolling Stone has like a timeline of it, and it starts all the way back in April of 2020. Miller seen in a viral video choking and throwing an unarmed woman to the ground at a bar in Reykjavik. 3 years ago. 3 years ago is when Ezra Miller started doing this violent shit. And they got to headline a major, expensive Warner Brothers motion picture. Because they're white. If Jonathan Majors had done a tenth of what Ezra Miller was doing in public, not behind the scenes, but in public, Jonathan Majors would be in prison right now. But Ezra Miller gets to walk away because they're white. And that's some bullshit. That is racism. That is white people getting away with shit that black people would never get away with. And Ezra Miller shouldn't have gone away with it. And I think people are going to accuse Marvel of racism for firing Jonathan Majors when they should really be accusing DC of racism for giving Ezra Miller the pass because they're white. Defenestrator says, I remember that for a while earlier in the year, you were more likely to be attacked by Ezra Miller in Hawaii than you were to be attacked by a shark. Yeah, no, this whole thing is a clusterfuck. Ezra Miller should have been fired, honestly, back in 2020. Like, Ezra Miller has already pled guilty to crimes and still got to be the Flash. And Jonathan Majors, who has maintained his innocence for the whole thing. Like, Ezra Miller literally said, yes, I am doing crimes. Whereas Jonathan Majors has maintained his innocence the entire time. Jonathan Majors gets fired. Ezra Miller gets convicted of crimes and still gets to be the Flash. Now, I don't think Ezra Miller is going to continue being the Flash. That movie flopped hard. James Gunn is taking over at DCU and is basically all of the old DCEU stuff is getting thrown out anyway, but they still kept Ezra Miller on as the Flash when they should have just reshot that movie. Anyway, that's all I've got to say on this topic. I was right about Jonathan Majors the whole time, and every single one of you posting abusive comments in my YouTube comment section, you can lick my taint. Hey, thanks for watching. Your view means a lot. Don't forget to toss me a like and subscribe and ring the bell. I stream Mondays and Fridays at 5 p.m. Pacific and Sundays at 2 p.m., so catch me live and join in on the convo. You can find all my socials in the description below, and thank you to all my patrons, with a very special shout out to my Whale Shark tier patron Ryan D and my Anemone friend tier patron Pistol Cakes. Your support means the world. Catch you next time.